Hello, everybody. Welcome back. My name is Teemah, aka the Master Archivist, here for Master Archives Analysis Podcast, Episode 2 for the Skeleton Crew. And if you do enjoy the content, give the video a like, leave a comment, let me know your favorite parts of Skeleton Crew, or any recommended content you'd like to see me make a video about. And you can also find me twitch.tv/themasterarchivist, where we are watching these episodes live, possibly right now, and talking about the episode. So let's get into this. This is going to be episode 2 for Skeleton Crew. So where we see episode 1 end, the Skeleton Crew, which I will be referring to the group of characters now going forward when referring to them collectively. Of course, the Skeleton Crew consisting of Wim, Neil, Fern, and KB have entered a ship, that of which Wim thought was a ancient Jedi temple, has blasted off beyond the barrier into the collection of stars, and while doing that, they actually have awoken the what I'm assuming his role is might be maybe navigator. Or maybe it might just be, the first mate or some higher ranking person on this crew, a droid by the name of SM-33, of course a solid reference to Smee. Captain Hooks, I believe, is his first mate. I'm not quite sure what Smee's rank was. I suppose they might be one and the same rank-wise. So, actually awakening SM-33, which I really like they did in a almost a Goosebumps-like horror way. The red atmosphere, and Smee's this basically like barely holding on droid. He's essentially walking scrap, and I love it. The accent, I have to remember who voices him. I can't remember who voices him from Shaun of the Dead. See, I feel so bad because I knew this. Like, I should have wrote it down. But basically, when awoken, thought that the Skeleton Crew basically stowaways, and SM-33 was in, or I may just refer to as 33. 33 was in search of the captain, being that there is no captain. This has been a long abandoned ship. Fern does appoint herself as captain. Throughout these episodes, I really I like to talk about some of my favorite moments. And one of my favorite things is once Fern has appointed herself captain, she's like, show me how to fly my ship. And the sequence that plays out throughout there, I really enjoyed, of Fern being shown just how to run the ship, and running like all these diagnostics, the navigating computer, everything like that. And I love, right when 33 is done, he turns over to KB. He's like, makes sense. KB with all these cybernetic augmentations, and she's like, yeah, it makes sense to me. And it's one of those things where it's like, it's probably not as funny as I think it is, but I really got a kick out of it. So little things like that, I think the show does well on, is the little bits of humor. It really does do a lot of lifting for the episodes. Now that, they have SM-33, like, well, you could fly the ship. And he's like, yeah. It's like, all right, so just bring us home. He's like, so where do you call home? And it's like, at Aden. And what I like is this kind of sets the groundwork for what we're going to see later into the episode, because 33 doesn't know where Ad Aden is. And of course, as the viewer, you're kind of like, all right, well, you crashed there. Wouldn't you at least have some type of data bank on where that would be? And we learn later on that Ad Aden is this, essentially Treasure Planet. It's this, this thing of pirate lore of this, planet of lost eternal treasure. And I think that's really cool. I want to see how that develops throughout this series, because I would really like to see them continue this, building upon this legend. And, and it starts to make sense once, this episode kind of rolls out there. You're like, yeah, I guess Ad Aden is the oddity in this universe. It is pristine, well-maintained, clean, really no danger, that we know of right now. It's one of those things where, like, it might just be too perfect. So if it, it turns out that there's this whole thing about it, be like, all right, well, that makes sense. So the thing is, instead, 33 is like, all right, well, we can bring you to this pirate port. It is the Port Borgo. Fern's like, you know what? Just take us there, and we'll figure out how to get home. So he does, and they are ferried over to this, to this port. And I mentioned in the last episode how, they really make the pirate life, it's disgusting, it's violent. And that's what we see. They land Port Borgo, and there's a pirate vomiting, which, like, I'm not too big on, stuff like that, more the grotesque shock value, I suppose. But seeing that, I was like, yeah, I mean, that's what I expected. It's disgusting. The pirates are drinking, and yet again, this show has some, like, insane liberties on things like that. The episode before, we saw a guy get killed, like, a machete. Of course, we didn't see the death on screen, but here, as the kids are making their way through this port, trying to find maybe some compass back home, they end up in what is essentially the red light district. And I'm just watching this, and I'm like, this is insane. Like, that's like a crazy thing to put in here, because there's something like that, and then, like, like I said, it's going on the more, like, risky side of things. It's something that throughout this episode I actually thought was kind of fun too. As they're on this ship coming to Port Borgo, they actually have a room on this ship that just has, like, it has, like, an actual compass and, a telescope and stuff, like, more, like, real life things than more of the Star Wars universe. And it's just so, like, on the nose, like, piratey, like, it kind of made me laugh more than anything, because it's so out of universe that I actually got a kick out of it. It's really harking on the whole pirate life thing, or more the fantasy side of it, I guess. For the kids, it feels like they're leaning more into the fantasy elements of being a pirate. It's not really Pirates of the Caribbean. I don't have a great example for it. But it feels more like I want to say, like, a Hardy Boys kind of view of pirates, or how Lego does, like, Lego Pirates. It's more in the rose tinted glasses kind of thing. And then when you really see, like, the actual pirates in this universe, they are disgusting and violent, and it feels like such a contrast how you would view it versus how it actually is. But one of the things I really like when they do actually reach this port as well, just flipping through my notes of things I really liked, they did the Dutch angle here, and when the kids get off this ferry onto the port, it's this amazing, like, Dutch angle you kind of show their transition into this crazier world, from their perfect utopia into this disgusting port of violent people. They really harked on the contrast there, and I really liked that a lot. another fun moment I enjoyed, Neil calling all the aliens weird. It's very interesting to me, because I'm like, yeah, there's a bunch of, like, different species, and they really did. Like, there's a lot of, like, unnamed species in this episode. They did so good with the practical effects in this. I really cannot wait for, like, the behind the scenes, or they always release the art books and stuff, and some, like, the concept work, usually like a year or two after the show comes out. I'm really interested to see the work they put into this, or the Disney Plus documentary that's gonna probably come out next month or so. Oh, we also come across Vane. For those who remember Mando season 3, one of the pirates that were trying to basically take over Grief Karga's area, when they're trying to clean up their image. Vane does return, and I guess this is going to be more of a prequel. I guess we're going to something. He's working for Brutus now, as we saw he was working for Captain Silvo in the episode before, for there was a mutiny, and they, relieved Captain Silvo of his duties. So now Brutus is running this pirate crew, that we've seen. I guess something's probably going to happen to Brutus, like, since we know Vane, he has, he's working under a different captain in a few years in the Star Wars timeline, so I guess something will probably happen to Brutus. Brutus also one of my favorite designs as well. Just, like, having him, it's such an intimidating character. I know in episode 4, I'm going to have to take a look. I can never remember the species. Shistaven? I'm pronouncing that horribly wrong. We did see another one in episode 4 in Mos Eisley Cantina, and that's one of the things I really think that the Disney Plus stuff has done well. Like, these shows is, given a longer runtime, making episodic, they really can touch upon some of the live action elements that it really did make Star Wars very, like, enjoyable and enticing, especially when I was younger. One of the things Mos Eisley is, we were introduced to a couple different species throughout the, earlier runtime of episode 4. We see Jawas, we see Tusken Raiders, and we see some of the creatures as well. And that's kind of all we really get. But once we get to Mos Eisley Cantina, it just opens up. You're like, oh my god, there's so many different species that make up this universe. And that's one of the things that the shows have done really well. Like, I think it was a great choice, Mando season 3 or even Mando season 1, to have IG-11, to have like an IG droid as, a character, like a main character. I think it was a great choice because the only IG droid we ever really saw was IG-88, and we also saw one of the IG-88s in the Bespin like refinery area. Have something like that, I thought was a great addition. So Skeleton Crew really continuing that, seeing all these different species. I kind of want to go back to see if maybe this might be the most species shown in live action, maybe since the original trilogy, or maybe the prequels even. It's tough because I'm really having to consider all the cantina scenes, but I digress. You do learn some more about Ad-Aden because one of the workers there in the Red Light District goes to try to save, I believe she called them Strandlings, I believe, Fern and KB, talking to them on like trying to work to get them home. And I really did like that because, just because they are entangled in this pirate world, like the workers on this on Port Borgo, doesn't mean that they're also horrible people. They just happen to be surrounded by a lot of horrible people. So I do like that they try to work to get them home. But then when asked where they're from, they say Ad-Aden. She's like, all right, be serious. And it's like, no, we're from Ad-Aden. And it's like, oh, so you're from the planet of lost like eternal treasure. And it's like, okay, so there's more lore to this, not just their home planet. Like I said earlier, SM-33 not knowing where Ad-Aden is. It's like, okay, so there's something more to it. Maybe it was erased from the archives, perhaps. It's this lost planet of eternal treasure. So I don't know. It's cool. It's just something of pirate lore. So I like to see how this develops. They're gonna start to learn more about their planet as it continues. But you also learn too, Wim goes to pay for food while KB and Firm are looking for, ways to get back to Ad-Aden. We didn't, no one really thought about it in the episode before, but Wim's father gives him these credits for food. And they end up being Old Republic credits. Now, of course, the pirates are enthralled by that because that is treasure. These are perfect mint credits. Apparently in still circulation on Ad-Aden, which I forget if they talked about that. I think they did in the first episode, talking about they're working on basically a society where the currency exchange is one of like the big things. So of course the shiny, wonderful antique credits gets unwanted attention amongst the crew. Fern with the blaster. I mean, SM-33 did mention to keep a blaster on her at all times. She ends up in a standoff with the pirates, and only to be saved by SM-33. And this is going to go down in my favorite scene from this episode. Like, I did like some of the jokes of this is my favorite scene. SM-33 fights the pirates. Best thing was he has this built-in blaster shield in his arm. And I love it because it really focuses on energy dispersion. And also, like, heat dispersion as well. So the blaster is absorbed into the shield, like the blaster bolt. And as he's fighting, he ends up taking this now very warm shield and essentially branding one of the pirates that he was fighting. It's just insane. Like I said, there's just some action in the show that you're just sitting there like, oh my god. I really think like you could do that, but they did. Of course, then the pirates end up getting getting one over on SM-33, shutting him down, and actually locking the children in the brig as, they're going to start to figure out everything with Ad-Aden, only to come across they're sharing a cell with a supposed Jedi, of course played by Jude Law. I'm assuming is Captain Silva, which we saw. They kind of have the same build and attire choice. So we will see, maybe that might be the same thing. Might be the same character. But overall, I know I gave the last episode 8 out of 10, maybe 9 out of 10. I'm keeping that same energy. Things gonna be 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. Like I'm enjoying the adventure, and that's where they got me. Is I love a good adventure story. A big fan of Indiana Jones. The Mummy, Brendan Fraser. The treasure hunting stories, Treasure Planet, phenomenal film. Um, so they got me, and you're adding a little mysticism of the Jedi. Of course, I always mention other videos. When you deviate from that, I think that's what really helps expand the universe. But I mean, I even mentioned, I think, in my live review that I'm like, maybe it might not even be a Jedi. Maybe it might be he's using like a magnet. I don't know why he took forever to get out of that brig, to be honest. The character, which he actually didn't get a name yet. I have seen the promotional artwork and stuff, and I know the Star Wars Black Series figures have given him a name. I think it's like Jonah, I think, or something like that. I have seen the character description. He's a former Jedi, but part of me was like, well, maybe he's like a magnet or something. No, you never know. I mean, pirates misleading. Could be a con artist perhaps. But overall, I mean, I think they did really well. Continuing to establish lore. I said a similar thing in Acolyte. Acolyte, I think, had a good build up in terms of story. The thing it lost me is like the last episode of Acolyte just crushed everything. So as long as they can kind of keep this going, this building the lore, like this universe is not what you think it is kind of, thing. And even with Jude Law's character, um, is he who you think he is? I don't know. Like, it's there's mystery. And that's the thing with this show that everyone's rallying behind, and I agree. It's the sense of mystery, it's the sense of adventure, and a lot of people, and I find it interesting, I've seen people go out on a limb and say that this is truly the magic of Star Wars. This is the most adventurous thing that they've done since the original trilogy, like to capture that magic. And I'm not specifically disagreeing. I'm having a great time watching the show. I'm excited to see where it goes from here. It was my favorite part of the episode was SM-33 fighting the pirates and like branding that guy insane. This port I'm very much into. We're in a good era right now where outlaws and pirates are really the focus for Star Wars right now. We just had Star Wars Outlaws released over the summer. The DLC just came out last month, and then this show now dealing with pirates. I think we're in a pretty cool era for everything. So I mean, we have that, and then favorite character from this episode, purely has to be SM-33. Follow up, I would actually have to say might be Brutus. Yet again, big fan of how they're doing this. All the different species in live action, the prosthetics, the puppeteering or animatronics, however they're doing this. I'm very, very interested in this documentary that's going to come out, and that actually might be something we'll watch together. So I guess that's probably going to be today's episode. So if you do enjoy the content, just feel free to leave a like, leave a comment, let me know your favorite part, let me know your favorite character, and also let me know. Maybe we might be watching the documentary for this together. So if you're interested in that, let me know down in the comments. You can also check me out on Twitch, twitch.tv/masterarchives. We are watching Skeleton Crew in a group here, like in a bunch. We just did episodes 1 and 2, so I'm making this video now. Of course, at the time of recording, we have 4 episodes out. New ones should be coming out this Tuesday, which is Christmas Eve. So we'll probably be watching episodes 3, 4, and 5 together. I'll be on a little archival expedition. We might be able to get episode 6 in next week, but then I'll be on my archival expedition. So when I come back, we'll be finishing out the series. We're really at halftime right now. So I'm going to get this out, and then we'll have the next one. So with that being said, thank you so much for joining me for Master Archives Analysis Podcast, Episode 2. I am, of course, your host, Teemah. And until next time, thank you so much for joining me for this transmission, and may the Force be with you.